first question is just generally, what should the world know about you? Tell us a little bit about how you've gotten to where you are today, and sprinkle in some childhood into that.
I have been a big proponent of living out loud for much of my life. I think a lot of my core philosophy is kind of like you do you. Like I could be like, I love living out loud. And then you could look at me and be like, that person over there isn't living out loud. And I'm like, that's cool too. Living out loud, it makes me very good at like things like self-promotion, but very natural self-promotion. Like I'm also not the most salesy person. The back cover of my book, the first sentence is, you don't need this book. I am not a salesperson. I'm not good at it. But when it comes to natural self-promotion, I'm very good to be like, oh, this I think connects to what you're saying. Maybe it might interest you, but maybe not. No stress. Meet people where they're at. Or if you're not meeting people where you're at, if they're here and you're up here, just understand you're going to be hanging out up here by yourself. And that's cool. But like, just understand. I'm actually writing a post kind of that, like doing what you want, living the life you want, not in spite of other people, but despite other people. My trajectory is, I find very interesting because I was a very confident young person. I was the most confident young person. I would come up with just something random and be like, and like turn to the teacher and be like, I just stand up in front of the class and just talk about this. And like in my mind, there was no question. Why would people not join? It's fun. Well, that was me when I was in middle and elementary. And then I changed schools in high school and I did a complete 180. I decided to be a wallflower, which was very much not like me. No extracurriculars. I kept my head down. I did my schooling. I did my job and I didn't think about anything else. So in college, the real shift happened. So first of all, I call college essentially a renaissance of like my generalist self. I had 2 majors. I had 1 minor. I worked up to 4 jobs at a time. I did all different clubs. I studied abroad twice. Like I literally wanted the entire richness of the experience. Tons of rejections, and I was fine. I didn't necessarily feel great, but it didn't necessarily phase me like I would have imagined it would have. And so I have definitely adopted more, number one, of this generalist lifestyle, coming into it where I do a little bit of everything and I don't want to narrow my focus, and it makes me feel suffocated and it makes me feel trapped to narrow my focus. But also just doing the loud thing. Like I wrote a book. My book was released a month and a half ago-ish at this point.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I'm so excited about it. But also at the same time, I'm not trying to push it necessarily on people. And I have learned kind of to take that energy, like this book energy, this my own success energy, to the right people, and learning that it's hard because when I take it to the people that aren't excited, and then I'm like, oh, maybe this isn't worth sharing. And I take it to the people who are excited. I'm like, it's not a big deal. And they're like, it is.
Take your energy to the right people, even with the best intention, even if they have really the best at heart, they will never quite be as excited as someone else who shares that passion in the same way. So anyway, I wanted to come back to your story, and you mentioned sort of you've grown up a very confident person. I mean, there's kind of 2 questions. We can tackle them sequentially, but one is, what do you think were the influencing factors that made you so confident in, you said elementary, middle school, correct? What do you think? Why do you think that was, that you were so confident so early on?
Honestly, growing without a sense of empathy, honestly, as sad as it is, probably helped a lot with that. Like in this blog post that I'm writing about my trajectory, I talk about a moment that has stuck with me when I was in, I don't know, kindergarten or something, where I went up to my best friend and I said, it was so fun that you came to my house last night. We'll have to do it again. And her friend was staying there and she went, and like, well, not Friday night. She's coming to my house Friday night. And Renata, no empathy whatsoever, just thought she was talking about plans. I'm like, okay, another time, that sounds good. And then I walked away. As far as the lessons that I've learned, I talk about how I learned to be self-aware. And I was not an empathetic, not a self-aware person as a young person. I have worked so hard on my self-awareness that it is probably one of the main adjectives that people use to describe me. And that, first of all, that feels powerful to me. Like that change feels powerful. Like you can make those personal changes, I think is awesome. So I talk about ways that I found self-awareness and then how I've used it kind of to inform my decisions. And I call it a non-self-help self-help book because self-help books in my mind seem to purport to know everything. Do this, do X, Y, and Z, and you will get A, B, and C. And I'm like, I did X, Y, and Z, and I got A, B, and C. Fun fact, that might not happen for you. Here's how I did it. Exactly. You can do it however way you want, but if you want to use this as a guide, it might help.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think it goes into that, I don't know what it's called. Is it like the anti-influencer movement or something? It's just people, on TikTok or whatever social media you want to choose. And they just literally like, this has worked for me, but I'm not promoting anything because who knows? So in terms of the sort of, as I said, like that sort of transition, the type of confidence you had when you were when you were growing up, when you were a child in a sort of quite confined space, then the wallflower period, then like the other end, like tons of rejection. And that empathy journey of really going all out to be hyper empathetic and then finding that balance. Yeah, how would you differentiate the two types, if there is a differentiation between that early years and sort of college sort of type confidence and going forward?
It's almost like an opacity filter, I feel like, right? I feel like that's a good standard for it. Like so when I was in middle elementary, it was confidence, but it was opaque. Things bounced off of it, right?
Yeah.
Nothing would completely,
Yeah.
And then when I worked on the empathy piece, and actually I would not say I completely lost my confidence in the empathy. It was a little more challenging, but it was almost transparent, right? Things just went through.
Yeah.
And now it's almost translucent, where I kind of pick and choose what goes through and what bounces back. And I mean, I don't get it right every day, and it's not perfect. And I don't feel amazing every single day of my life.
Yeah.
But it does feel like I can be more selective on what I allow to affect me.
Yeah, and the same with emotions. So I think I came from the other perspective, trying to absorb less and like literally like develop a level of immunity that you were naturally gifted with, but which has its own downside. How would you sort of daily key self-awareness moments look like on a daily basis?
It's so interesting. I intellectualize my feelings so bad that like this weekend I looked up thoughts versus feelings. Please explain the difference, because I'm not sure that I know. Because I've actually sat in therapy, and she's been like, "How do you feel about this?" And then I answer, and I'm so happy, and because I'm well adjusted and I know how to feel things. And then she's like, "You gave me a thought," and I'm like, "Oh no." So it can be challenging, I think, because the emotional piece is so out there for me. When I have emotional reactions, that's where I like absolutely not. Like I stop and take stock. This feels extremely wrong. This feels extremely right. This made me cry, and I didn't anticipate it.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting to me how our bodies hold on to it. At least, and once again, for someone that is not insanely in tune to the emotional side, maybe my body is just like, oh, I'm just gonna hold on to this for a while, and then all of a sudden it's like, it's like, and now I'm crying. So I think it's recognizing, is seeing my patterns. So I feel good now. What are the similarities? What things are going on in my life? What am I eating? What media am I absorbing? Seeing and understanding those patterns, I think, helps. I mean, patterns, the point of a pattern, right, is to predict the future. In school, it was like, here are these 4 numbers, what follows, because they predict the future. So understanding your particular patterns, which might change, being open to the change is one of the hardest parts. One of the most challenging parts, especially when you have a strong sense of identity. Like I have a strong sense of identity. So I'm like, I am these 5 things. And if one of them changes, I feel like my identity has dissolved completely.
Yeah. And I have a bonus question on that for you, because I think what's the benefit of empathy when it comes to self-awareness, I find, is that this will give you natural clues as to your own self-development. Why? Because you will notice that you've just hurt somebody with what you've done. My question is, so how did you go from like realizing even that actually, hey, hold on, I'm not very empathetic?
I take things at face value a lot, because because once again, the no empathy piece, that's all I have to go off of. And as an honest person, as someone who knows myself and will very readily tell you something honest, even if it's ugly, if someone tells me something, I go, oh, okay, they know themselves. Someone will either, when they speak, you know what I mean? I'll be like, oh, maybe we should ask this person for X thing. And then I'll hear her ask that person, and my brain is like, why didn't you just say, I need this? Can we please do this? She'll like come at it from a different way. And like, well, I wanted them to be comfortable saying no. Like, why would they not be comfortable saying no? Like, to me, I don't understand. And just seeing her consider people's emotions on the back end like that was enlightening. So it doesn't dawn on me as a thing. And then I started living with this roommate, and I started seeing her be very compassionate, be very empathetic, have feelings about other people's feelings, which is something I had just never done. But coming into a space where I wanted to be able to explore the things I hadn't been allowed to explore previously, and like there had never been a safe space to do that, and a safe space to be myself, because they were things I had wanted previously, but I didn't feel I could ask for. I wanted that for other people. And I think I understood that empathy was the way to do that.
But were there other light bulb moments that like fundamentally were like, oh?
When I was in high school and dealing with this, like wanting to be aloof and not wanting to, and having my confidence shaken, my mom's advice was fake it till you make it. And eventually I kind of realized, I was like, okay, I just need to bring that confidence essentially into a different space. And fake it till you make it, I was like, oh, fake it till you make it doesn't mean be fake. At least in the way I was now interpreting it, that's not what it meant. It meant bring the confidence that you have where it previously wasn't, and push it there. And I think that was really big for me.
Now, where you are in your life now, how would you differentiate that? What would you sort of describe the evolution of your confidence? Maybe that's a better word.
Is I've written extensively and talked extensively as well about the fact that I overcorrect everything. The self as the primary, but letting other people's stuff come through as much as is healthy.
You touched on it just now and previously, but how would you summarize what confidence allows you to do now versus what you couldn't have done or what was much more challenging before?
Not needing other people's approval. It's sharing the right amount and understanding where people are at. So if you're not meeting them where they're at, knowing what their response is going to be and understanding that it's cool, that I'm just doing what I want to do. And if they don't want to care, then they don't get to experience the richness that I'm living.
What would be your advice to somebody who's overwhelmed and wants to get started, whether it's your younger self or whether it's, pretty much sadly most of our young people right now who are bombarded with a lot of information as to how they should be?
I kind of want to go back and be like, find the things you like to do and do them. And, and not do them instead of anything else necessarily. Just add them in, make life richer by doing what you like to do. And I feel like for the longest time, I just didn't. I didn't look at the things I wanted to do. I looked at the things I needed to do.
But what would be maybe one or two questions that you'd ask yourself being a young person now, or like being at that age again?
What do you want to be, but not in the way of a job? You know what I mean? What do you want to be? What do you want? Not, you can say what you want your life to look like. Fine. What do you want your personality to look like? What do you want yourself to look like?